Alright everyone, now is time for summary completion. So let's look at summary completion. You will be given a summary of information from the text and there will be some gaps in that summary. It's probably easier when I show you to understand what these questions are. So obviously I'm going to show you a question, but basically what they do is they look at the text, they create a summary of that text, and then they take words out of that text. It'll make more sense when I show it to you. You will either be given a list of words to fill in the gaps, or ask, can you look in the text and take words from the text. Again, that will make more sense when I show you the actual question. Your job is to insert some of the words from the list into the gaps, or if asked, to fill the gaps with words from the text. There will be more words in the list than required to fill the gap. So let me start off by just showing you this question because it makes a lot more sense if I just show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is a summary of the text. Alright, so as you can see, it is a summary, a shortened version of the text, and what they've done is they've just taken some words out, and what you have to do is replace those gaps with words either from the text or from a list of words provided. So it's an unusual type of question, and it tests some specific skills. Let's look at the skills that are tested. So first of all, they're going to check whether you can scan for the correct information in the text. So what you'll have to do is you will have to look at the text and scan it for specific information. Also, they're going to test, can you identify synonyms and paraphrases, as always? And can you understand the general meaning of the summary? So you're going to have to understand the summary. If you don't understand the summary, then you won't be able to complete this question. But it's not too difficult. Don't worry about it too much. So let's look at some common problems that come up with this type of question. Trying to fully understand every part of the text, you don't need to do this. If there's a word or a phrase, you do not need to know every single word or every single piece of the text in order to understand it and to be able to answer the questions properly. Not being aware of synonyms and paraphrasing, as always, you need to be aware of these. Ignoring correct use of grammar. This is one of the questions where you need to use the correct grammar. Some, like short answer questions, for example, you don't need to really worry about grammar, but with this one, you do. It has to make grammatical sense. So let's look at how we can overcome these problems and how we can ace this type of question. Try to predict the answers before you look at the options or the text. This will help you spot the correct answer. Should the gap be filled with a verb, a noun, an adjective, or an adverb? If your answer makes the sentence grammatically wrong, then you have the wrong answer. Remember, it has to be grammatically correct. Look for synonyms and paraphrases in the text rather than words that match directly. You do need to be aware of words that match directly also, but most of the time it's going to be synonyms, paraphrases. Don't spend too much time looking for the answer to one question. If you can't find it, mark what you think it might be and move on. Focus on the easier answers is a better use of your time. So don't, if you get stuck on one, don't get all the remaining answers wrong because you run out of time. Try your best, but if you're spending more than 2 or 3 minutes on an answer, move on. Guess it and move on. If you get a list of words, think about the ones that can't be the correct answer because of meaning or grammar, and you can then eliminate these words. Okay, so let's look at a step-by-step strategy. Read the question carefully, note how many words you can write, normally 1, 2, or 3, and if you should get the words from the reading text or a list. Skim the summary and try to understand the overall meaning. So you note that we haven't looked at the text at all. We're looking at the instructions first, and then we're looking at the summary. We're not looking at the text. Try to predict the answers before you look at the reading text. Also think about the word type, noun, verb, adjective that should be included. You'll know that by the grammar. And it won't be like really challenging grammar. It's not a grammar test, but it does need to be grammatically correct. And you'll notice again, not looking at the text yet. If you have a list of words, try to guess which 2 or 3 the answer might be. Pay attention to words that collocate well with the words in the sentence. Identify which part of the reading text the summary relates to. Scanning for synonyms from the summary will help you do this. So this is the first time that we've looked at the text, and what we're doing is we're immediately going into scanning. All right, scanning, identifying the correct position, where it is in the text. Look at that part of the section more carefully and choose the correct answer. Remember to be careful with synonyms. So think about yourself as, let's say you are a sniper, all right, and you're looking across the battlefield, trying to identify targets. You're not looking at every single piece of grass and every single bit of the terrain really carefully at the beginning. What you're doing is you're just scanning very carefully, trying to find your target. And when you get your target, then you're going to look very carefully at it. And that's what you're doing in this question. You're scanning first, trying to find the location, and then you're going to look carefully at it. Number 7, check to see if your word makes the sentence grammatically correct. If it doesn't, it's wrong. If it does, mark it down and get going. Okay, so let's have a look. First thing is the instructions. All right, choose no more than 2 words. So what does that mean? It can be 1 word, it can be 2 words, but not more than 2 words. So if you have 3, 4, 5, whatever, it's wrong. If it's 1, that might be correct. 2, that might be correct. More than 2, wrong. So now we need to read this and understand what it means. So Sobotka argues that big business and users of helium need to help look after helium stocks because will not be encouraged through buying and selling alone. So something here. So this is probably, now let's not guess what it means yet. Let's understand the whole thing first. Richardson believes that something needs to be withdrawn as the US provides most of the world's helium. He argues that the higher costs would mean people have something to use the resources many times over. Have the ability. Just that makes sense, and so you should be trying to get ideas as you're reading this. People should need a license to access helium that we still have. Permission, need a permission, doesn't make grammatical sense. Further, should ensure that helium is used carefully. So it's a noun. Need a noun. People should need a noun. Okay, so we've understood what this means. Now what we need to do is think about synonyms, paraphrases, predict, things like that. Okay, so Sobotka argues that big business and we need to help look after helium stocks because, so we're looking for helium stocks, levels of helium, amount of helium, things like that. Richardson believes that something needs to be withdrawn, so withdrawn, taken away, stopped, withheld, something like that. He argues that higher costs would mean people have to use the resources many times over, multiple times. Higher costs, cost more money, prices, stuff like that. People should need something to access helium. Access to get your hands on it, to use it. It could be as simple as that. Furthermore, ensure helium is used carefully, is used satisfactorily, conservatively, with care. Let's think about it that way. Okay, so now that we've done that and we've sort of predicted our answers as well, now we need to find the location of the first answer. So Sobotka argues that big business users, so we need Sobotka, that's going to help us because this is probably the name of a man, a woman, a business, something like that. So let's scan for that. Here's the text. Sobotka, no. Okay, here we go. Dr. Lee Sobotka. So that we know this is a man or a woman. Dr. Lee Sobotka. Let's look to see if it's anywhere else. No. And you can see what I'm doing there very, very quickly. I'm just like, look at the cursor. My eyes are just going that quickly. Just scanning. Scanning, Sabaka. You're doing it that quickly. So now we need to see, we have the location here, but we're not 100% sure that it will be about this. So we need to go back and have a look. Argues that big business and users of helium need to look after helium because helium stocks. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so there's nothing here about stocks, so let's move on to the next bit. Okay, global shortage. Okay, so we're talking about shortage here. Let's go back. Stocks. Shortage is probably around here. So now we need to look at this more carefully. Okay, so Sabaka argues that big business and users of helium need to help look after helium stocks because will not be okay. So we're looking for a reason. There's nothing here, so let's move on to the next one. This is just reading through. Let's go back and have a look. Present market forces. Let's have a look here. Buying and selling alone. Present market forces. Buying and selling. Market forces. Okay, so market forces, buying and selling. This is our location here. This takes long-term vision because present markets practice are not sufficient to compel prudent practice. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that this one is prudent practice. Let's move on. Richardson believes that something needs to be withdrawn. Okay, as the US, so let's have a look for withdrawn. Withdrawn, repeal. Okay, repeal is a synonym of withdraw. Upon to withdraw its privatization policy. So let's look at this more carefully. For Nobel Prize laureate Robert Richardson, the US government must be prevailed upon to repeal its privatization policy as the country supplies over 80% of global helium, mostly from the National Helium Reserve. Richardson believes that the needs to be withdrawn. Okay, so I think we're pretty sure that it is going to be privatization policy. Let's have a look back, see the next one. He argues that the higher costs would mean people have something to use the resources many times over. For Richardson, a 20 to 25 fold, so it's him again, him or her, I think it's a him, Robert, him, a 20 to 50 fold increase in prices would provide incentive to recycle. people would have to use the resources many times over. Recycle, many times over. People have incentive to recycle. Incentives. So I'm pretty sure that that's incentives. Incentives to use resources many times over. So you can see just how they're really testing your vocabulary here. This is really testing your vocabulary through synonyms. This so far has just been a pure vocabulary test rather than a reading test, which shows how important it is. People should need something to access helium. I think this is going to be license or something like that. A number of steps need to be taken in order to avert. Firstly, all existing to be conserved. Released only by permit. Permit is a synonym of license. People should need a permit to access helium that we still have. So you see how powerful prediction is there? Because I predicted that, that means that it was really easy and really quick to find the answer. So let's go back, double check, permit, yeah, so it's permit. Let's have a look at the question again. Furthermore, something should ensure that helium is used carefully. Firstly, secondly, so furthermore, conservation should be obligatory and enforced by a regulatory agency. Conservation. Carefully, conservatively. So we remember we said that when we were going through thinking of synonyms, and I said conservatively, conservation. So that matches up, and that'll help us. Furthermore, so we're looking for a noun. Conservation should be obligatory and enforced by a regulatory agency. So I think that's the last answer. Okay, so let's go back, double check. A regulatory agency. So then what you would do is double check that everything makes sense, because prudent practice will not be encouraged. That sounds good. Believes that the privatization policy needs to be withdrawn. Good. He argues that higher costs would mean people have incentives. Good. People should need a permit to access. Good. Furthermore, a regulatory agency. So they're all no more than 2 words. They all make sense. They all are grammatically correct. So I'm happy with those answers. Then we can check them. Prudent practice, privatization policy, incentives, permit, regulatory agency. So you can see not all questions are going to be that vocabulary focused, but that one was. That was really testing your vocabulary, and unless you were able to use the vocabulary that you have, and you have a wide-ranging vocabulary, you would be in trouble with that question. So that is why I keep saying again and again and again, every single day you should be reading. Every single day you should be listening. Every single day you should be noting down new words and improving your vocabulary. And if you do that, you're going to improve your vocabulary. The other option is just to say, oh, I'm going to fail and I will never be able to do these questions. If you say that, you definitely are going to fail. But if you take action and start reading every day, listening every day, improving your vocabulary book, then you're going to really improve. Thanks very much, guys. Hope that you enjoyed that. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free to give me an email or comment below this video. Thank you.